419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam is out today.
Yes.
He just couldn't handle the weight of being me.
He knew that once he heard your voice again.
Yeah, he was out.
After a week of you being gone and us having to suffer through his voice mostly, that he was going to just feel a kind of way, and so he decided to stay home.
It was like a couple.
Was what the text said.
It was like a couple of days. It was a couple of days. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
He needs to know that he's welcome to come back.
And I did get some feedback. So when I was with the Mud Hens, I was the PA announcer for the Mud Hens for 8 years. I would take a day off or I'd miss a game. And I would get texts from fans saying like, this guy's terrible. And I'm like, I know who's filling in for me.
Yeah, he's not terrible.
They're great, right? But people don't like change.
No.
I got messages from several people that the shows were great.
Well, the interesting thing is,
I expected people like, oh, this isn't the same, or
right.
it's not, no.
No,
like,
it's not because of your personality.
Because it's not.
No, it's not because of what you bring to the show.
It's
It's just literally, this is the only thing. The only thing you bring to the show is that you have that thing in your ear, and you have skill in speaking.
No,
and so Matt and I don't ever have to worry about like
I would have been happy with that.
The time is going to be right, or you're talking to the producer or anything. And so when he has to do that, it makes him panicked. And then I say, I'll do it. And he's like, no, I'll do it.
You know, I wasn't intending for this to be the only thing you bring to the show.
You know, I'm kidding. I think it works best when we're all three here.
That's right.
It's good to know that it's still enjoyable when one of us is gone.
That's right. We're still going to have a great show today. Yes. Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We've got Andy Sprenger.
Yep, he's back.
He's going to be back on the program, second time on the show. He's still 3 away from getting a jacket. We have to end this season before we get to 5 because we don't have jackets in the budget.
We have no jacket budget.
And then John Jones is going to be with us. John is the CEO of Hope Toledo. And a good friend. I'm excited for him to come on. We're going to be talking about gaps. We're going to be talking about equity gaps in training, in the workforce, in education, and we'll talk about unconscious bias and all of those things as well. I'm excited to hear Andy's perspective on the training side as it relates to workforce development and what they're doing at WorkSpring, and then certainly John and the work they're doing at Hope Toledo.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of conversations happening in our community about kids and youth and parents and all of this. I know we'll talk to John a little bit about that. But the reality is, and this is not a controversial statement, it all starts with education.
Right.
And when we get our kids ready for school, when we get our kids successful in school, it sets them up on a different trajectory. And the work that John and Hope Toledo are doing is really important. And so I'm excited to get an update from him on what's going on.
He was a guest on our podcast a year and a half or 2 years ago, but we don't think we've had him on our show here on WGTE yet. So excited to get an update, and the connectivity between workforce and education obviously is something we'll discuss.
Perfect. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk to Andy Sprenger and dive into our topic here on a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We'll be right back on the 419.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. It is a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're joined once again by Andy Sprenger from WorkSpring. Andy, thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You are, remind me again of your title. I know it's something to do with training, but you are the Senior Director of Global and Workforce Training.
Yep, keep on going.
World domination.
Yes.
Something like that.
You nailed it right there.
Perfect.
Yeah, learning
like
and
a long
development
business
consultant.
card.
That's
Learning
my
and
official title.
Okay,
Got
fine.
it.
I liked mine better.
But I like yours better. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard to get on a business card, though.
Yeah, it would be
That
really
kind of seems
long.
a little
11 by 17.
I like it though. I used to do that actually. I used to have a business card that was the size of a piece of paper, and I'd go into businesses, and I'd pull it out from my backpack, and I'd be like, "I'm Andy Springer. I'm here to." And it was when I was in
Did they
sales.
start
I thought it
locking
was
the door?
hilarious.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
they
good.
did. They
Yeah.
did. One secretary or administrator, she looked at me and she goes, "Really?" And I go, "Really? That just happened."
This
Yeah,
is
So it's
that
memorable.
just
That just
happened.
happened.
This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Get on
Sorry,
board.
No, that is
Random
memorable. I like
story,
it.
but-
Okay.
All right. So, topic of the day is gaps, equity gaps, unconscious bias gaps. Certainly, as it relates to training, I think there's two sides of this, right? So there's certainly a training side of this to address bias, to address unconscious bias. But my guess is there's probably also gaps and bias in the trainings we have.
Oh, absolutely. And those gaps, I mean, I was thinking about this a lot prior to coming here, and we all have gaps, and you could reframe them to be weaknesses or things that we need to work on or specific skills that we need to develop, in training, for example. But again, unconscious to conscious bias, there's that gap there. And when there's that gap there, when you tend to do better. So when you know of your training gap, let's say it's a skill that you need to do for your job, well, then you try and do better and you try to learn about that gap to bridge the gap between unconscious and conscious.
But you don't know what you don't know.
And you don't know what you don't know. And that comes with experience. It could come with classes. It could come with a lot of variables.
Is there any workforce that should not have bias training?
None that come to mind.
Okay.
Again, what is bias?
Yeah.
I heard a trainer talk about bias, and he basically said bias is about preference. We all have preferences. Like I was thinking of Ohio State and Michigan, for example. I don't know, who do you root for, Ohio State or Michigan?
Neither.
During the big game.
Same. Neither.
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Okay, that's always the third factor. So
Natural
Notre Dame.
disasters.
Notre
But then
Dame.
there's that why. It's
Right.
understanding the why. Why do I prefer this? For example, when it comes to training or performance skills, myself, I love public speaking. I love training. I love teaching. And I also love learning. My least favorite thing to do, and I still do it, of course, because you have to, is paperwork. Like the logistical side of things sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I need to bump up my skill to close that gap.
So I want to push back a little bit. I mean, I certainly get that bias is preference. But I think when it comes to people, right? I think that this unconscious bias
Yep.
is not an unconscious preference, right? I think there are certainly systems in place that I just saw something over the weekend about CPR training,
Yes.
and that they're now making the dummies. That there's a company that's making female
Right.
dummies
Sure, absolutely.
with a bra, so that when you remove, and they're realistic, right? When you take the shirt and you start doing it, it's like, well, no, you also have to remove their bra. Like that has to happen.
Right.
That's what you do. But it's this idea that people don't know. People are nervous. People are shy. People are embarrassed. But it's like, no. There's a bias there in the way we do training on CPR right now, that we've got a gender-neutral dummy that doesn't actually help anybody. And so acknowledging some of that and saying, no, we got to change the way we do this. We need to be more intentional in training to real-life situations rather than just, we got to do training. Let's create a training and let's say we've done it. It's what are the actual outcomes, and are we actually measuring, did
Right.
this training achieve those outcomes?
And that's where, isn't that what we all want in training? Is how does this apply to my real life?
Yeah.
And when it's too generic, then people tend to resist it because they want the specificity for them.
What role does WorkSpring play in helping organizations identify gaps, right? Identify whether it be bias, whether it be gaps in training for their employees. Where do you guys fall in line on that?
Sure. And I think Gretchen, you just said it just a little bit ago, is there's a education that's required. Education is paramount. And so we have defining respect. and civility in the workplace, which helps discuss about conscious and unconscious bias. And not just, like you said, not just preference, that's an overgeneralization, but certainly to make you aware that all of us want respect, but respect is a very loaded word.
Yeah.
It's very subjective, so we have to be aware of how you view respect, versus how you view respect.
Right.
And I have to be empathetic enough to be able to adapt and present that.
And you have a problem. I mean, not a problem, but what sometimes you hear is when you're trying to train people on conscious bias or even discuss it. If there's a supervisor that just so happens, just randomly always picks the man in the workplace to do this, to head this committee, whatever. And as I've experienced many, many times, as the only woman in the room, would you take notes? Would you take the notes in the meeting, right, to the woman that's in there?
Oh, I see.
Right.
Yes.
And so when you don't have that. If someone doesn't draw your attention to that, that person may never know it. But also, I think people feel like they don't want to be that person. They don't want it to be punitive towards the person, right? That's maybe doing that. Maybe they truly believe this is a guy that just doesn't understand that that's potentially sexist, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you address that? How do you address it? What do you do to try to make sure that's not happening as an employer? And what would you suggest an employee do in a situation like that?
For me, it kind of boils down to perspective taking. And for instance, the person that truly believes that, females should be taking the notes because that's their role, right? I usually try to have them see it from the perspective of their daughter or their mother or their grandmother. Would you tell your grandmother that she had to be this way? That type of thing. So I would take it from a perspective taking angle. But also, times change.
Right. How do you address a situation where, let's say maybe your company's been around 50 years, 100 years, but now your workforce is 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that are completely different than you as a manager or a founder of the company. What about that gap? How can you figure out if the trainings that you're doing, maybe some old school PowerPoint or something, is getting through to the people that you're actually trying to train, because they are different from you.
Absolutely. And every generation has those tendencies to be a little different. But again, that's what does it boil down to? Communication. Finding someone and just saying, listen, I don't know what I don't know. And let's say I'm the senior and I have some 20-year-old in front of me, right? I don't know what you know.
Right.
So let's talk. How do you like to receive information? How can I communicate with you better?
And that may be just really the beginning, because so many people, I think, say, look, I've been here, and you're going to learn this the way I learned it, right? Back in my day kind of phraseology, right?
And I usually, what I tell people in classes usually is, who wouldn't want to coach? Like, if you were in the school of hard knocks, and you had to learn when you had no support, and you just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Looking back, wouldn't you want someone to show you?
Right.
And then usually I get a couple like, well, then you could be that person for them.
It's funny how quickly we slip into that. I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 47.
I think I'm the oldest at this table. But you find all of a sudden out of nowhere that you're the one saying things like that. You're like, back in my day.
Well, yeah. I just said this weekend to my oldest son. I was like,
when I was a
your
kid,
age? And I was like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Who's saying that?
I looked in the mirror. I looked in the mirror and I was like, Dad, is that you?
Exactly.
Hey, I'm interested, Gretchen, you're talking about kind of the gap, right? You got a company that's been around for 100 years, training employees for all of that time. But now you've got 18, 19, 20-year-olds in this generation coming into the workforce. Are trainings, are the way we train employees changing, right? So the PowerPoint, hey, here's a manual, go home and read it, right? My guess is that's not going to be effective today. Are we getting to more micro-learning quicker?
Send them to YouTube?
Certainly. Yeah, no, we are. And there's, depends on the audience, depends on what the company wants us to train them on. And there's that gap there. And so we need to learn how to speak their language. I usually say, though, behavior has no age. Behavior is timeless. Like, as far as the emotions that we feel, you just need to figure out, okay, what's your learning style? How do you like to receive information? What speaks to you? What's your role? What don't you know? that you think you know, and that's a whole nother challenge, because then you have to convince them and get them to buy in. But what it boils down to, again, is just communicating, talking at their level, but also raising the bar for them to come to my level too, because I mean, it's a bridge.
Sure.
So we need to come together to construct this bridge and be able to meet in the middle.
What do you mean when we talk about relationship bias at work? What does that mean?
Relationship bias? It could be a couple things. For example, if you and I were best friends, and
Which we can be, if you want.
I'm open. I'm
And
game
why
for that.
wouldn't
Absolutely.
you? Why wouldn't you want to
I
be
want you
best
as a best friend.
He's open to it.
I
If
am
you were
open to
best
it,
friends with
absolutely.
Gretchen, you'd get invited to her house for parties.
Yep.
Yes.
Kevin's
Which
Okay, so
which I don't
actually,
get invited to.
Kevin's butthurt that he never-
This goes in
Still
line
don't
with
get
what you
invited.
kind of said with
Okay.
relationship bias.
Right.
So let's say I'm invited to your house. We're best friends. And it's between Kevin and I to get a promotion.
obviously
And-
you.
Yeah, obviously. I mean,
That was even before you came to her
But
house.
that, again, relationship bias, because
Right,
you prefer
okay.
me
Okay.
over Kevin
Yeah.
for various. Now, it could be legitimate. Maybe I have better education, or I've been in the game longer, or experience, whatever it is. But if it's solely based on your personal feelings about me versus Kevin,
Right.
boom, right there. That's a red flag.
Okay.
Because but let's switch the roles. Let's say I try to use our relationship to get something from you. Well, that's unfair. That's relationship bias. I'm trying to use our relationship to better myself. That's not good.
Right.
And so that's a very as soon as you said it, that's what first popped in my mind
Got it.
was what's our relationship to each other.
I'm curious, we're talking with Andy Sprenger with WorkSpring, Senior Director of Global Training and World
Is this like Pinky in the
Improvement.
Brain? I think
Yes,
we talked
it
about
is.
that last time.
That's right. We're
Yeah.
trying to take over the world. When we're talking about equity gaps, we're talking about relationship bias, we're talking about workforce and changes in generation. I'm curious as an employee, what advice you have for somebody that is seeing gaps in front of them, is seeing challenges or hurdles and saying, I don't know how to do this. What's the right way for them to ask their employer for that training, or to if hey, this is a skill set that would really benefit me in my role. I'd like my employer to pay for it, right?
Yep.
How do I go about opening that door to that conversation with my boss?
I would first try and figure out what type of boss you have. Are they more about people, or are they more about tasks? Because if they're more about tasks and they're more about the skill of making the company better, then you sell it to them with how this investment will make my productivity increase by this much. And to a person that values that, they're going to
That's
see the
gonna
value and
work,
they're going to
yeah.
go, boom, got it. But if I'm dealing with someone on a personal level, I'd kind of do what you just did. Listen, I see this gap and I want to do better. How? How can we do that? And now I give it to you. But if you're a people person, you're going to be with me. And you're going to be like, oh, I like this person because they're courageous and they're owning their vulnerability, which a lot of people nowadays like that. They're not the do as I say
Right.
taskmaster.
Yep.
It's no, they want you to see your own gap, because that shows growth, that shows maturity, that shows a willingness to admit that I don't know it all.
Yeah.
When companies, when organizations are members of WorkSpring, is basically what just happened here, how it works. They're at the office, they're at the company talking about something, there's this issue, someone's come to us with wanting this, let me reach out to WorkSpring. They call you, and then these are the kinds of recommendations about how they can become educated, a training that can happen. You guys can put together a training for them. Is that generally how the program works?
Yep, that's generally the conversation we have.
And do you have like a sort of banked, videos or trainings or things you guys turn to, or are they unique problems that you have to dig in and figure out what to do, or is it both?
Both.
Yeah.
That's certainly a question we ask them. And I mean, we see similarities in companies, not problems, but things they want to work on. We see similarities, but there's always slight deviations. And those slight deviations is through the conversation, then we kind of customize what's needed. Now we do, of course, have our own stable of courses in the background, and our own courses that you can take at WorkSpring, those type of things. But truly, if there's a need, someone wants to express it. So we just ask them, what do you need?
What's the next upcoming training that you're working on that people can come and be a part of? And
Well, today I have 3 trainings virtually, one-to-one trainings.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it's about trust building and things like that. And then I have, what do I have tomorrow? I have basically 8 different classes this week, both virtual and in person.
well, that's
And
what we
a
would
lot of
expect
it-
from the
a lot of
senior
it's trust
director of
building.
global.
Of course, yeah, I'm
training
busy. You know,
and world
my
domination.
private jet.
There's a lot of people in the
and
world.
I fly around everywhere.
That's right.
My youngest son, my 8-year-old, yesterday he goes, "Dad, what if I invented teleportation?" I was like,
Great.
Okay, like there you go. So I'm looking forward to that because then I can get to other places faster.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
We would just use that advancement
I
to
want
work
to push
more.
back Andy and say that you would not definitely use teleportation to get to work quicker.
I would just use it.
No, the answer to that is no. You would use it to like get to vacation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, like I use it all the time.
Okay, for
And,
multi-purposes.
Yeah, I have no idea where I would land.
Got
but,
it.
And if people want more information on WorkSpring, where can they find it?
They can find it at workspring.org, or they could call. I don't know if I want to give out my personal cell number.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
No.
Workspring.org.
Let's
Start
do
there.
that.
Your best friend already has
yes.
it.
Yes.
That's right.
That's right. If they really want, they can reach out
Andy
to Gretchen.
Sprenger with WorkSpring. Thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have John Jones from Hope Toledo.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
I love PBS Kids!
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a t-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end. It's
The
not
story, it's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to Get Out and Play Day.
The 419 at 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, and 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects. It's the 419 powered by WGTE.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419 powered by WGTE. It's Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. We're joined now by John Jones from
John
Hope
Jones.
Toledo.
Hey, guys.
John, you were my mystery guest on the podcast.
That's true.
Last year? No, over a year ago, right?
I think you were season 1.
Yeah, season
I
1.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were
Long overdue
true
return.
original guest.
Yep.
Original mystery guest.
And then I was out last week. I'm going to be out again, and you're actually going to be a fill-in host.
Look at that.
For us.
And if you
we're
do
having a
well,
ball. If I do
maybe
well.
you could be permanently in this post if you want.
Look at that. I tell everybody.
I'm
I don't-
here.
He's right here.
I'm like, you want to talk about relationship bias?
Actually, it could be
I
it could
accept
be
the
any
offer.
one of us. You
I
could
accept the
replace any one of us.
Oh man, no, that makes me nervous because John, you have an incredible voice.
He does.
Look at that. That's kind.
It's from
and-
preaching.
That's
is
right.
that.
So you are also
It is that.
Yeah.
Reverend
Yes, sir.
Jones
Yes,
is
sir.
the. I joke with Andy and his grand title, but
Yeah.
you have worked hard and earned the title of Reverend John C. Jones,
That is a true statement.
Esquire.
And that's following in the family footsteps.
Yes.
Grandmother
Yep.
was pastor. Dad is pastor. So we're there. My brother's in ministry as well.
And your
so
dad just celebrated a big milestone, did he not?
big one, 89.
89 years old.
That's a big one. He's still kicking.
Did you
That's
guys have a
what he
party?
says. Party at the house. That's
Yeah.
That's about as much
The
partying as
place.
he's.
Yeah. Was a rager. It's all nighter.
We're rolling.
So John, tell us
At
a little.
89, it's
at
up every
89, yeah.
45 minutes to go to the bathroom.
Exactly.
That's-
rolling
Exactly.
and rocking.
Wait, that's the same as 56.
Absolutely.
Wait.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about Hope Toledo. I think
Yeah.
many people have heard of Hope Toledo. Maybe some people haven't, but
Absolutely.
just give us a little bit of a brief history, and then we'll kind of start talking about what's going on
Yeah.
now.
So Hope Toledo focus is on education, right? So early childhood, post-secondary were our original sort of anchors, if I could call it. I like to call them the bookends. And so in having that space, we've done some really good work. We're real thrilled. The mission is actually to support and ensure high quality education from birth to career. And the focus is on preschool, post-secondary, trade school, with the goal of creating economic empowerment for all of our families, right? So at the end of the day, we believe education is the tool that can help families, help communities get to better economic outcomes. So it's an educational piece, obviously, and we really believe even more so, post-secondary is wonderful. We believe even more so that if you start a kid early and start them strong, it creates long-term educational benefits.
Why do you believe that? Right? Give me some data points that back up that belief.
That's real good. So there's a ton of data out there, and I would encourage everybody to go research. Just go look at early education returns results. You can find it. Stuff pops up. But what we know is a few things that are true. From an economic perspective, for every dollar invested in preschool or early childhood, particularly high quality, but for every dollar invested, there is at minimum a $7 to $10 return for every dollar invested.
There's quite literally, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
no data to suggest that interventions in a child's life between the ages of 0 and 5 has any adverse, detrimental, or negative effect on anyone, on the person, on their family, on the economy, on their future job, on their life in general.
And
like there's literally nothing that suggests that.
And very rarely do I make an absolute statement like that. But in this
and there's
instance,
so few things we can do that about.
You can say that there is no data, no research, no nothing that says if you invest in a child's life, you get nothing back.
Right.
I always said every 6 months, right? You watch the news, and every 6 months you're going to find out that milk cures cancer, milk causes cancer.
Yep.
Milk is the greatest thing for weight loss.
Absolutely.
Milk is why you're gaining weight, right? Like
you're going to find something different.
Doesn't matter what it is,
Absolutely.
right? It's you're going to have. This is an area where there really is no both sides. I think it was a woman from was it Bainham?
Yeah, Bainham Foundation.
Came in town,
Marika
spoke
Cox
at a Rotary meeting.
Spoke at a Rotary meeting.
But had said, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong here, you'll get them right, that the state of Ohio spends X number of billions of dollars
absolutely
every year on basically kids that aren't ready for kindergarten,
absolutely.
Kids that aren't ready for education.
Absolutely.
Which is the exact same amount of money it would cost for us to actually educate
them. So when you look at the dollars that are spent, and we've done this research, and so you can fluctuate on a few numbers, but if you just think about incarceration alone, right? So the state of Ohio spends approximately $30,000 and maybe a little bit more, but $30,000 per year per person that we incarcerate. On juvenile justice, there's a lot of conversation about kids and community and Wild It Out and all that stuff. But on juvenile justice, it ranges anywhere between $60,000 and $80,000, maybe a little bit more, per kid per year. Because obviously younger kids need different kinds of spaces. You can't cram them all in one space. That's the reason why it costs more. $60,000 to $80,000 juvenile justice to educate a child in early childhood. It costs right now approximately $15,000 per year per kid in early childhood. We would rather incarcerate with the hope of rehabilitating instead of placing the educational emphasis early in life and ensuring that those interventions
and I absolutely take your point. I do and I do think it's true that there are extremely negative outcomes without interventions starting at the age of 0 to 5. That's a possible outcome.
Yeah.
But I often hate the comparison. It's not like if your kid doesn't go to high quality preschool that they're going to go to prison. But there's so many more things.
Yes.
You can find out that they have some diagnosable issue.
Yes.
You can find out that they were exposed to lead. You can find out that they have a speech impediment. You can find out that they have some sort of nutritional deficit.
Yeah.
You can find out that they have a problem with their vision. You can find out that they have a problem with their hearing.
Yes.
There's dozens and dozens and dozens of things that could benefit a child if you have that level of early intervention, in addition to not going to prison. So here's the thing that drives me insane.
Yeah.
Literally drives me insane. I can't stand it. It makes me crazy. Because, and you know, I've told you many times that when
I'm the thing that makes it crazy.
I've told you many times that when I win the lottery, Hope Toledo, you're good.
Absolutely.
You're good.
Absolutely.
No need to worry.
That's right. No need to worry.
It's going to happen. I've got a whole plan written down. And I do buy lottery tickets. But if we know this,
yes.
Why are we like this? Why don't we have it? Why doesn't it exist?
So I want to
universally.
I want to ask because I think there's two sides to this question that I want to make sure that we give you a chance to touch on.
Okay.
There's a community side of why is this not available.
Yes.
And then there's also a family side of why are families not taking advantage of this.
Yes.
If I as a parent know these things to be true, why am I not
100%
seeking this out? So there's why is the community not make this more readily available, and why are families not seeking it out?
So let's start with the family side, and you just hit the nail on the head, because what you said is, if I know this, why am I not seeking this out? A lot of families don't realize it. Okay. They don't know it. They don't realize. I think inherently there's a realization, okay, I need to get my kids education, but we've, in our country, we've said education starts at kindergarten. That has been the traditional kind of conversation, right? And when I say that, I mean it from this perspective. I believe, and not all research, I can't say all research will suggest this, but I believe parents are your first teachers, right? Just inherently.
That's been the belief since the inception of our country. I mean, farmers, my father was born on a farm and grew up on a farm and went into the city of Topeka, Kansas when he was 6 years old to start school, right? And had just learned at home. This has been happening generations.
100%.
But
what we've
now
done
we know
is with the educational side and the economic side. So with the workforce, we've brought parents out of the home into the workforce. So it's easy to say, oh my gosh, parents should stay home and they should be teaching. We're going to talk equity. If the thought process is mom has to stay home and be the only teacher, okay, we had a problem in World War I when we needed workers. And so you go all the way back to there and saying, hey, we brought parents out of the home in order to do that. Here's my thing though. It's the educational component. We can talk about that. It's families understanding what this means. So there is an awareness conversation that needs to happen. There is also a community galvanization that has to happen at the same time. And when I say that, it's not that our community does not in large ways recognize early childhood education is important, right? But it's our pathway to get there. Some people actually believe, well, the real answer is one parent needs to stay home. Yeah, well, last I checked, if I'm trying to pay bills and have a home and just one car, not 2 cars, but if I want a home and a car, pay the bills,
and a phone,
do all of that, a phone, I want to have all, and it's not amenities, it's necessities. One income in the house does not suffice that because we aren't paying top to bottom what we should pay. Now, that's a whole nother argument about pay equity and
it's just
all
one
of that
aspect
stuff.
of this.
That's one aspect. But when you think about the economic benefits, so we talk about community, and what should they be doing and why haven't they? I think we recognize that it's important, but what we haven't gotten around a table is to say, how can we do this in our community right now? There are answers. Public investment is one, right, that can do it, but then you have to then move towards how do you effectuate it, who leads it, who runs it, how do you make the awareness be what it needs to be across the entire community? And I personally believe that we're light years closer than where we were. So that's a great thing.
You have people that, so in response to Kevin's question, the first part was, if people know it, they want to do it. So then we address maybe they don't know it. Okay, so I know it and I want to do it. And then I go look up the price of it.
Now I need help with access.
Okay, and so talk about the cost of high quality early education. And we don't need to get into it, but just suffice it to say that the state of Ohio, as many states, have set up a system that rates the quality of the education that's provided. It's not daycare. It's education.
And it's important to say that it's not daycare.
It's not daycare, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. And you have to get accredited in a certain number of teachers, and your teachers have to have a certain level of education, all that affect the star level.
Absolutely.
The star 5 being the highest.
Medals.
It's medals now?
So
Okay,
they moved
good.
it from stars to medals.
Okay.
So there's gold, medal, silver.
Got it.
Gold, silver, bronze.
Okay.
Right. So they tried to sort of close that up, but it is Step Up to Quality is based off of those medals, those ratings, and the reimbursements that child care centers can get.
So if
the
I have
access for dollars for parents to access those places.
If I have one child
Yep.
that's 3 years old,
Yep.
and I want to go to a gold star,
Yes.
Gold medal.
gold medal education space,
Yep.
And I work a full-time Monday through
Yes.
Friday job, what's that going to cost me?
So the cost is going to be depending on my income. So if I'm working and I'm over threshold where I cannot get publicly funded childcare access, it's going to cost me approximately $1,250 a month. So approximately $15,000 a year.
Not nothing.
And that's going to be, it'll fluctuate a little bit more. And that's not to say that $15,000 is the true cost of a high quality experience. True cost of high quality experience could be as much as 18 or 20, but the state right now reimburses, if I could say it that way, reimburses at a tune of $15,000 at gold medal centers. So that means if I'm getting publicly funded reimbursement, the state does that based on the income and threshold. If I don't get that, the child care centers have to provide the same rate. So they can't say, I'm going to charge a private pay person more or less.
Right.
So that $15,000 is why it's set there.
So then what does Hope Toledo do
100%.
to help with that?
So what we've done historically is to help families get access through tuition credits. That was our biggest thing, and we got support from city, county, a few other places to help do that in a demonstration model over the last 4 years, right? And that means we've said to families, if you are earning up to 400% of federal poverty guideline, you're going to get something from us, right? And it is structured that way. So the more you make, the less you get from Hope Toledo, because you should be putting some skin in the game, which makes our model a bit different from what other cities are doing. Other cities are doing something similar. We didn't go out there and reinvent the wheel. So our tuition credit on average has been between $6,000 to $6,500 on average. Some families may get more, some families may get less based on what they get. And that is a critical space when I can provide almost half of what it is that they're paying out in early learning. It is a significant help in my home so I can continue to do the things that I want to do.
We're talking with John Jones with Hope Toledo. If folks are watching this and they're saying to themselves, I had to pay for my kids to get this. I'm not going to pay for somebody else's kids to get this.
Absolutely.
The reality is they are paying for it.
Yes, they are.
One way or the other.
You're going to pay for it one way or the other. And what I encourage people to say, because particularly, and I'm sensitive to this, right? So my children, my youngest is 17, right? We've done this. I'm not going back and getting no more babies. But at
You're
the
not
end
announcing
of the day,
anything today?
No, I'm not announcing
Okay.
a thing today. I'm not announcing a thing today, camera. But at the end of the day, all of our community rises and or falls, right, based on how we support our children in these spaces. And so at the end of the day, if we're able to say as a community, we see the end result, and what does it mean if I expend $30, $40, $50 a year in order to help support that initiative, right? That's where this ultimately boils down. I would love for us to be able to say, hey, there's a bunch of private money out here. You know, Elon, if you're listening, please by all means.
Listen, John, he only has a trillion.
He only has a trillion.
He can't be expected.
He can't come around.
Come on.
He can't come around to it. But very seriously, it is a significant investment in our children, but it's also a significant investment in our future. So for me, to those families, I say out loud, you've done it. Yes. You've taken care of your families. Yes. Wonderful. But at the end of the day, you're going to need more children, more families to be able to access this education, because at the end of the day, I don't know who my doctor is going to be. I don't know who my mechanic's going to be.
Right.
All got to be pulled together.
John Jones of Hope Toledo. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into our WorkSpring Wellness Wednesday topic presented by WorkSpring, talking about equity gaps, both in education, in training, in the workforce. We're excited to continue that conversation with you. We'll be right back on the 419, powered by WGTE.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARDA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarda.com.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. It's Wellness Wednesday, presented by our friends at WorkSpring. We're joined by John Jones with Hope Toledo. John, the work you're doing with Hope Toledo is about bridging some educational gaps in our community, but those gaps exist in a lot of different spaces.
Oh, absolutely.
Talk to me about, let's talk about equity gaps in the workforce. Yeah. I don't think for our TV listeners, right? So, you know, you and I look a little different. Just a little. There's some similarities and some differences.
Just a little.
But when we think about the workforce and we talk about, generations, a company's been around for 100 years. The workforce is changing in age. The workforce is likely changing in gender. The workforce is changing in race. How does that, with your work at Hope Toledo, how are you seeing that play out? Where are you seeing gaps that still need to be addressed?
Yeah, so that's a phenomenal question, and I'm thrilled to be able to talk about this. So this takes me back to some of my DEI roots, right? Because I've done this for a really long time. So what I really want people to understand, number one, is diversity is automatically around you. So those watching, this is a diverse panel right here. It's automatic. If two people walk in the room, that room is automatically diverse. So I know people yell about, oh my gosh, what's diversity? It's automatic. You cannot help it because what diversity literally means is different parts, different elements, blah, 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 blah. When we look at access points and we look at what's going on in education and in our community, there are gaps all over the place. And those gaps are represented in what the usual suspects are, which people typically go to, which you've already done, race, gender, so on and so forth. Those are typical gaps. But then you have to start looking at where are the other gaps. You have families, individuals with disabilities, whether those be physical, seen disabilities or unseen disabilities, learning disabilities, things like that. That creates access gaps, right? So I'm thinking about the learning space, and we have this happen for our kids right now. Even in early childhood, right? Children are, and Gretchen, you so eloquently said it just a little bit ago, you can start to diagnose, dare I say diagnose, I better not say that. You can start to pay attention to and see where learning disabilities may be showing up in children when you have them in a classroom, right? Once you start to see that, now how do we address it? So in our K-12 space, particularly even in our higher ed, you have things like IEPs, which is Individualized Education Plan. You have 504s. You have various things that help and say, you know what, I need some accommodations. Now, there may be some people out here who will yell, scream, kick, and holler on accommodations. In a previous life, I taught a couple college courses. Had to deal with that, right? Which means one of the students I had to deal with is they needed a little bit extra time to complete an exam, right? Actually, once they got into it and started doing it, they really didn't use all that time, but because of a learning disability, they needed to have that accommodation granted to them. When we think about those access points, I want people to have the best shot to do what it is they need to do. Now, I'm not saying that you have a timed exam for 2 hours and now I give you 2 months to finish it. No, but there has to be some form to create, next big word, equity. And equity literally means fairness. And people get lost in this idea of equity, equality, this, that, and the other. I'm not trying to create the same space for us, right? It would be great. I want a fair space for us. Whatever Kevin needs, whatever Gretchen needs, whatever John needs, I want those things to be provided so that you have just as good a shot to achieve what you need to achieve as I do based on where I am.
And people that say,
I'm so excited for where this is going.
look, you know, schools and employers, like, this is just too much.
Yep.
We can't worry about all this equity stuff. Yep. This lady just came back from maternity leave. She's got to breastfeed. Like, look.
I can't do
like,
that.
I
That's
bet.
too much.
I'm supposed to find some room. Like, come on.
Gotta create
It's
that
ridiculous.
space.
She had the kid. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that well-meaning people of all stripes have those thoughts sometimes. So how do you combat that?
Yeah.
And it could be about anything. It could be about sports. It could be about the workforce. It could be about education.
And I think from the bias perspective, right? Like, I mean, I inevitably overlook the accommodations that I receive.
100%.
But I recognize the accommodations other
Somebody
people
else
receive,
is.
right? And so you think
true.
about the person who's the person who's complaining about you having the time and the space to go breastfeed may also be going outside to smoke 15 minutes every 90 minutes.
Now here's an idea. Put the breastfeeding and the smoking in the same.
And see how that works out.
I just thought of a good idea.
You wouldn't. That's you know what? I think that's like moving a particular community to the airport.
That's what. Yeah, and we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. That's not good.
But I think to your point, Kevin.
That is a good point.
And listening to Andy earlier, right? And as we walk through some of these things about bias, right? There's a little thing called confirmation bias. People tend to track towards what they already believe, right? And so if I'm already believing, well, I didn't have to do X, why should they get to do X? That's going to create a problem. But then I also want to reshape this word equity for us.
Mm-hmm.
We see equity show up in a couple different places. Every single person wants more equity in their home. Most people, if they could get it, if you offered me today, Kevin, an equity stake in your business, I'm taking it. Because I want to say I own part of it.
Yeah.
That's literally where people are. People want equity in every area of their life except when it comes to people.
Because there's a belief that if, and I didn't want to say it, but I'm going to say, like, if I give you equity, that came from me.
Yes.
No, or that it's taking away mine.
If you get equity,
yes,
it's coming from me.
I literally had a conversation with a person. We were doing this work in a previous role that I had, and I had a person come up to me because we were starting to push real hard on this thing called equity in the workplace. And I had a person come up to me and said, you know, I get it, I understand it, but I feel like if these opportunities are given over here, then that's going to stop me from climbing this ladder that I'm on. I'm on this trajectory. And what if that stops me from getting? And I said, why would it stop you for someone else to be given an equitable, fair shot for a role of advancement if you're the best qualified for it?
Was it a white man?
Literally what it was, a white man. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them like that.
No, I know.
Real talk. But because I understood the conversation. Because what it looks like is you're taking something from me, and we've allowed that narrative to last way too long. Because it's not about taking or granting. It's about saying, you know what? You should have just as fair a shot as I do to get to X.
I heard an economist years ago say this about the TV show Shark Tank, right? So you've got, these, ultra wealthy investors sitting, listening to small business owners pitch their idea.
Yep.
And they come in and say, hey, John, this is my idea. I've got this widget. I'm looking for $200,000 for a 10%, stake in my company.
Absolutely.
What the economist said is that every single person walking into that room, if they said, I'm seeking $0 for a 10% stake in my company, that is a good deal for every single one of them. Because giving that 10% equity to the shark improves the value of their business. And I think that if we would take that approach, that as it relates to diversity, as it relates to equity, that look, if you want a percentage stake in my company, John,
you got it.
Here, done.
Look at Kevin coming in hot with a good
Never
analogy.
happens.
We're talking with John Jones from Hope Toledo. What are the things that may be difficult for people? I think that, you know, of course, then we have this fractured social media environment. I see things like this all the time. I see it in my work, my real work during the day in the criminal justice system. But for somebody that is just learning about this or is just starting to really look around them to see what's happening in their daily lives, what can they look for to kind of see like, oh, wait, and then how do they, what would you suggest or how do you address it? Because as you know, John, someone that's been working in this, I hate saying the word space, but in this space for a long time,
That's my favorite word.
You could be calling out people and talking to people and talking about it all day, every day, in every single transaction you have, right? There could be something, but you don't want to be necessarily. Okay, so what can people do? What should they be looking for? What can they be trying to perceive? And then what can they potentially do about it?
So one of the things that I say all the time is first and foremost, every person has to be willing to do the work. If I choose that I'm going to walk into space and I'm not, whatever environment it is, and I'm not willing to do the work, then we're going to have a problem. So been in a couple rooms here lately in our community, and it comes up, and I think the conversation around training is critically important. I'm a fan of training, but I'm a fan of good training. I'm a fan of well-placed, well-targeted training. So let me be very clear, and I'm gonna say this out loud, and I know it'll be recorded and maybe played over and over and over again. I'm not a fan of doing diversity training because the white guys in the office don't know what they're doing. What does that do? Think about what that does.
Right.
When we think about diversity, equity, inclusion training, when we think about it, automatically people go to, it's a white male problem.
I just did it a minute ago.
If I'm a white male, I'm going to say, why do I want to come in that room? Everybody forgets about the fact that, you know, my daughter, let's just talk about it. My daughter's a basketball player. If her and her girls all had on sweats, if two of them were not basketball players, they're going to automatically think they all are because of how they're dressed. There's an automatic bias that we throw on people. How do you get them out of that? Number one, people got to be willing to do the work. Number two, you got to then provide a, quote, training atmosphere that meets people where they are and does not vilify them coming in the door.
Right.
And so if I want people to look for something out in community, the first thing I want them to do is look around them. If your room is all the same, I want you to start asking questions about why is every room I go in, why does it all look the same? Then you start to ask yourself, okay, how do I make some changes in that room? There's a lot more.
That's good. I like it.
That need to be said there.
No, I appreciate it, John.
John Jones with Hope Toledo. All right, John, we got 2 minutes.
Let's
Rapid
go.
Fire. Here we go. It's now time for Gretchen's Wacky Quiz. I love when Matt's not here.
No, and I refuse to say it. I refuse to say it.
No, but you just did.
I know I did.
4 rapid fire questions for me. Gretchen's going to have you describe Toledo in one word, and then you'll list the 9 best things in Toledo. That's the 419. Which car would you most love to own?
A Corvette.
If you could have an unlimited supply of one thing, what would it be?
Gummy bears.
Ooh, nice. Which conspiracy theory do you believe is true?
That professional sports is rigged.
You think it's true? John
What
Jones.
would your secret spy name be? Double O Reverend.
Double O Reverend or Super Bow Tie.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. And it turns into an airplane or something.
And spins me a helicopter.
Helicopter.
Yeah, I don't know if
I
you
like
know how
it.
airplanes work.
I know, I don't.
That'd be sweet.
I actually don't.
That'd be painful. All right.
Shockingly.
One
I don't
word.
know.
Here we go.
Okay, what's the one word?
Hopeful.
Oh, I like that. Okay, what are your 9 favorite things about Toledo? It could be anything.
Art Museum.
Got it?
Toledo Zoo.
Uh-huh.
Metro Parks.
Done.
Let's get the culturals out the way, right? Higher ed. The various communities, because we have a bunch of different ones. The festivals.
Yep.
We are Holy Toledo. So all the churches.
Churches.
Right?
2 more.
2 more. Your wife. I better say that. My wife.
Wife.
Wait, and my parents.
Parents.
There you go.
Done.
The kids didn't make the list.
I love you, though.
John Jones with Hope Toledo. If people want more information on Hope Toledo, where can they find it?
www.hope-toledo.org. Please put the hyphen there. If you don't, you won't find us.
Won't find us.
There you go. You got to put
Guys,
the hyphen.
it's been a great show. I love this.
Thank you so much.
So much.
And we can see you again on Friday.
You're the best.
Okay.
All right. We'll take a break and we'll come back. We'll wrap up this Wednesday edition of the 419.
You laughed with us. You learned with us.
Hi, neighbor.
We made sure your childhood was special. Memories that could only be provided by PBS. For generations, we've given you programs that made a difference. Programs that entertained, informed, and inspired. And today is no different. This is WGTE Public Media in Toledo. It's where you belong.
Want to keep up with everything WGTE Public Media? Well, there's an app for that. Our new app provides national and local content from radio and television on demand. Listen live, watch your favorite TV programs, access schedules or podcasts, set reminders for your favorite shows, and more. Download it free for Android or Apple.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE, as we wrap up a Wellness Wednesday edition presented by our friends at WorkSpring.
Good show.
It was a great show.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's always nice to talk to Andy and to John. He's always so thoughtful and gives us a lot to think about.
I've looked up to John for a long time, and I mean, I said at the beginning when he came on, he's got an incredible voice. The tone of it is wonderful, but the reality is what he says is what makes it great.
Yeah.
I love the work that he's doing with Hope Toledo. He's such a champion for the community, and he, you know, I appreciate that he's comfortable standing in front of a room saying, "You guys aren't getting it right.
Challenging
we can
people.
do better."
Yeah.
And he's in there, and he's not saying like you're not doing it better. He's saying we're not doing it well enough. Let's do it better. So huge thanks to Andy Sprenger from WorkSpring for joining us, and of course John Jones with Hope Toledo. You can find out more information on them at hope-toledo.org. If you missed any part of the show, you can catch it 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91 in Toledo, Bryan, Defiance, and Lima, 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects channel 30.4, online 24/7, 365 at WGTE.org/the419. Of course, you can email the show 419@WGTE.org. And because I was gone for a couple of days, I also have a note here that says, I heart Matt. So
that looks suspiciously like his handwriting.
It might be. Thanks to our guests and thanks to you for being a part of the program. It's the 419, powered by WGTE, presented by WeTro Wealth Management.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like